We've been working here on this rainbow, but I'm not very satisfied with these colors. They look too pale, they're not bright enough. And I want to show that there is another way of choosing colors. Now we are using here RGB, that's the default. So anytime you use stroke or fill, where we're not using any fill here, or background, when you enter 3 values separated by comma, by default they mean how much red, how much green, and how much blue. But there's another option for that, for choosing the color, and we can see this on the reference. Let's go back here, and it's called color mode. Here it says the mode can be one of 2 options. It can be RGB or it can be HSB. What's HSB? That means hue, saturation, and brightness. For us, it's not so easy to think of a color in terms of RGB. You know, think of pink, how much red, green, and blue is there. The other option, the other way to choose color, we can see it here. If you paid attention when we opened this, maybe you noticed there was here RGB down here, but on the top there's also H, S, and B. The hue is the tone of the color. This bar here is changing the hue. If I click here and I move up and down, you can see only this number is changing. So here the hue is going from 360 to 0. Well, should be between 0 and 360. So you get an idea of what hue is. Hue is the tone. Is it yellow, green, blue, purple? And there's 2 more values down here. If you click and move the mouse here from right to left, this value is changing. What is it? So when we don't have any saturation, that's 0, then you just have gray colors. You have anything between white and black. All these things on the left, they have no saturation. And the more you move to the right, the more saturation there is. So on the right here, we would have what we need for our rainbow. We want bright colors. We don't want gray colors because rainbows are not gray. And the last value here is the brightness. That's how much light do we have. So when we don't have any light, it's black. There's 0 brightness. When you move towards the top, then you have a lot of brightness. So clicking and moving here around and moving this slider up and down, you can get a feeling of what these values are. But it's easier to think of colors in these terms than in RGB. Why? Because, for example, if we want saturated colors, we want them here on the right side, then you want, these are good colors for flowers, plants, and toys. And if you want something less fun, more gray, or like black and white movies, then you work here on the left side. And it's easy to think also of the concept of brightness. It's like at night, or when you switch off the lights, we don't have any brightness. When you add some light, maybe a poor lamp, then you have some brightness. And when you add a very good light, then you have a high brightness. I hope you get an idea. You should play around with the color selector and click around here and move the slider so you understand these numbers. When we use this color mode function and we type inside HSB, so I go here, color mode HSB. Now these 3 values that we enter when we use stroke or fill or background, they don't mean anymore RGB. Now they mean HSB. That's hue, saturation, and brightness. And then we said we want saturated colors for our rainbow. So we don't have to make the saturation random. we can say we want a lot of saturation. Always it's maximum. The thing we want to change is the hue. That's the tone. Is it green or yellow or orange? But we want them to be very saturated and also very bright. So we can put both at maximum. We have a lot of saturation and brightness, and we just change the tone. You can see here the colors are very bright. But do you notice something strange? These colors are very red and blue. I don't see any green or yellow or orange. And look why. Here we are saying we want a random hue in this case, avoiding all colors that are below 100 in hue. If we would enter from 0 to 255 like this, now we get any random hue. Now we should get the complete scale. So this is an interesting way of checking out a range of hues. For example, let's check what's between 0 and 100. And now this is very yellow, green, orange, red. What's between 100 and 200? Oh, this is very... This doesn't look like a rainbow at all, or like the real rainbow. And the smaller the range, if we type colors between 100 and 150, they will be very similar. And if we type between 100 and 110, then probably we cannot even see the difference anymore. It's very lightly changing, but you can experiment with these values and see which kind of color scales do you get. And let's do some more experiments changing the other values. Let's leave this at 255 so we can get any tone, any different hue. Let's run it. So we're getting here the full scale of colors. And let's see the effect of saturation. This is now maximum saturation. Let's make it like just 100. That's much less saturated. So they're becoming less colorful. They're more pale. And if we would type here a 0, no saturation at all, then now we just get white. We get white because we said we want full brightness. And full brightness with no saturation, that makes white. Let's try like half of the brightness. Now it's gray. It's gray because here we have no saturation. If we enter 50 to get some saturation, and we have some different shades of gray. Sometimes they're a bit yellow or red. So you should play with these numbers and see which kind of colors do you get. You can see now that these colors are saturated but quite dark because we are removing brightness. The lower the brightness, then the darker. If you would put it to 0, then we will get a very black rainbow.